to the Big Three, where we get to talk about this week's sermon from North Boulevard Church of Christ in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We'll take questions and make observations from you and me and John and this week's special guest. We have two of them, Emily Barnett and Marcus Stinson. Hey, guys.
Hey,
hello.
Yeah, I didn't warn you, Marcus, that you're standing now in the loudest part of the building. Like, we can't even hear when you're talking. We couldn't even hear you.
Oh, no.
Hey, let me, y'all have seen Emily several times, but let me introduce Marcus. He's from the Leander Church of Christ in Leander, Texas, just north of Austin.
Correct, yep.
And we have partnered with their congregation when we did our fundraiser for the flood victims in Texas. So thank you for being here with us today.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you guys for being our partners, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Hey, we're glad you're
here. And we got to
here.
host together at the New Day Conference this year.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we are on week 2 of Audacious Identity. So I actually wrote down my summary. I kept making my summary longer because he just kept blowing me away.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it. In Joshua 2, God changed Rahab because she made a choice. She chose to be bold and courageous and daring. She chose different. She chose an audacious identity, and because she did, God made her the grandmother of kings.
I love
cool?
it. So great.
I like that.
That's my best
Great
summary
story.
I've ever written.
Grandmother
Right
of
there.
kings.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so good. Well, great job.
Thanks. I feel good about it.
Yeah, good. You could just drop that mic, but don't, because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And leave. But no, we want you to stay because we want everybody to share a highlight from this morning, something you're going to take home with you. Emily, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I loved his point where he said, when you are audacious enough to choose God, he will keep changing you. Because the more that you lean on God, the more you spend time with God, the more you are changed to look like him. And so if you are bold enough to make that choice and stick with that choice, then the more you will turn into looking more like Jesus on earth.
Amen.
Because it sounds kind of daunting to think, I'm going to be audacious. Or if you grew up in the 80s, bodacious. Remember that one?
Wow, okay.
But,
there you go.
But you're just saying, like, make a choice. Now make another choice. It's like it's
That's
a
right.
continual choice. I love it. That's
we've
really
said
good.
around here a lot of times that righteousness is defined by people who just make the right choice over and over and over again.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Cool. All right, who's next?
What about you, John? What you
Okay,
got?
I love when he said, the God that did that can also do this.
Yeah.
And so when you make the choice to follow God, you know, he just kind of affirms his presence in your life. And as you get old like me, you look back and go, yep, the God that did that, well, he can do that too.
I thought for sure you were going to pick the one about telling your story, because that's a big one for you, is sharing your testimony.
Well, I was changing it up, just mixing it up. But yeah, remembering the stories, because us finding ourselves right in the middle of God's grace and living in his story changes everything.
Changes everything.
So
All right.
good.
Okay.
Marcus, what about you?
You had to write mine down too, because there was a lot here today.
So much.
Just that what God has carried you through is the best predictor for what God is going to carry you to. And so it was Rahab hearing about God and his mighty works that gave her the courage to choose different and get an audacious identity. So it's God's mighty works and what we know he has done that's going to allow us to do the same thing.
You know, and I was thinking about her and thinking of all the people to believe that God was going to do this, who would guess it would be her? You know what I mean? So I think, and that was going to be what my thing I was going to talk about. He talked at the beginning about kind of judging others, and he said, Calvin said, you don't know what God is doing in their hearts at that moment. So you look at someone and maybe you look at something about their appearance or something and you think, wow, they're making these choices. You don't know what's happening. And I mean, who would have ever thought Rahab, of all people, would be the one that really trusted it? I was trying to remember. I feel like there was a place where that name Rahab comes up, and it's not this woman. And it's there's a place in Job, and I think in Isaiah, where it's a reference to a pagan deity named Rahab. So that most likely is who she was named after.
Yep.
Right? So like we name our kids maybe after Bible characters. Her parents probably named her after this pagan deity. And you think about that. So someone else had tried to identify her in one way. And then she made a choice to make a different identity, and it completely changes the story.
Yeah, and I think that you never know what one small choice, because she chose to hide the spies, and that was a very small decision to make, but what that ended up leading her to become and being part of the genealogy of Jesus. And so like with her, and then with Ruth coming right after her in that lineage, the small choice of leaving her home to go back to Jerusalem with Naomi.
Yeah.
And how small of a choice that is, but how big of a consequence it led to.
Look how big the harvest of that one choice was that God
bringing
brought.
it back.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and we're
true.
always blown away. God uses the most unlikely characters. He always has. David sitting out there watching a bunch of sheep. You know, he would have never dreamed, I'm going to be a king. And not just a king, remembered as kind of as the great king. You know, and then,
the archetype of everything.
the archetype king. And then in the line of Jesus, who would have ever dreamed? So it makes you, you know, when we make the audacious choices, when we claim our identity in Jesus, there ain't no telling what he's going to do with us either.
And don't you think that probably changed how Boaz responded to Ruth? Because he had grown up with a mother who was not born a Jew. And so when he was confronted with a Moabite woman, he didn't just like disregard her. He saw her kindness. He saw things about her character where other people would have just assumed things about Ruth. But because he'd been raised by a woman who was not Jewish. I mean,
I thought that same thing.
You know, all the fingerprints that go along the way in it.
Hey, wherever you are right now, God's doing something. Just make the choices that lead you to Jesus, and then look out and be amazed at what he does.
So good.
We good?
Yes, that was really good.
All right, guys, if you have any more questions, let us know. There's a QR code on the screen.
Yeah, and if you want to rewatch the sermon or watch it for the first time, you can find it at boulevard.to/sermons. And that's a wrap on this week's Big Three.
That's right. Thanks for being with us. Look for this podcast on your favorite platforms, and be sure to join us next week for Boulevard's Big Three.